So what do you think about the new iPhone 6? You love it, right? What a gullible jerk-off. So the long-awaited release of the iPhone 6 is finally here, with two new models, the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. And with all the tightly wrapped information that's been closely held by Apple over the past year and a half, they finally made their big reveal in Cupertino, and we found out that what they've invented is the Samsung S4, Galaxy S4, and the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. Good fucking job. Only this time, they've engineered out all the useless shit, like dependability, robustness, being able to actually make a phone call, and they've replaced it with cheap, bendy aluminum frames and a update to their newfangled iOS 8 software that immediately disabled the ability to make phone calls and to unlock the phone with your thumbprint. Speaking of which, dumbasses, you're giving your fucking thumbprint to Apple. These are the same people that couldn't keep Jennifer Lawrence's tit selfies under wraps, and you're going to give them your fucking fingerprint. Not smart. You know, when I was young, I was growing up in one of these non-denominational Christian households, and there was tons of stuff about Revelations, in the book of Revelations in the Bible, and how these were the end times, and, you know, there's going to be the rise of the Antichrist, you know, things like that. And then, of course, you have the whole Mark of the Beast thing. You know, what is the Mark of the Beast thing going to be? Is it going to be like a tattoo or a barcode on your forehead or your wrist, like the Bible seems to suggest? No, it's going to be your fucking Apple ID and your Facebook profile. That's the Mark of the Beast. And even though I've had an iPhone before, most recently the iPhone 4S, I've never liked Apple. Okay? Steve Jobs. I should stop right there. What was Steve Jobs? Well, I'll tell you what he wasn't. What he wasn't was an inventor or a software or a hardware engineer. Steve Jobs was an interior designer. Okay, now he claimed to have invented everything. Well, he sued Samsung, basically claiming that he invented the fucking rectangle. Oh, but our rectangle has rounded corners on it. Oh, gee, Steve, that's fucking amazing. That's probably why the people in Battlestar Galactica had the, you know, all their paper was with the chopped off corners so they didn't get sued by Apple. What Steve Jobs' true brilliance lay was in convincing everyone that he had something both original and exclusive. Okay, keep in mind, exclusive, but everybody could have it as long as you could shell out $400 to $600 for one of his handsets. Okay, and what he gave people was a feeling of belonging to some exclusive club. All right, Apple products aren't just devices, they're a lifestyle. Someone asked me how I feel about my phone. I say I don't. It's a device. I either find it useful or I don't. The current device that I have, I find very useful. Okay? If I didn't find it useful, I would get rid of it and get something more useful. The steel frame round glasses, the constant black mock turtleneck with the jeans and the 3-day scruffy beard. Fuck off, Steve Jobs. I know they say you shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but really, fuck off. Okay? Every product launch, he's up there in his auditorium in Cupertino, darkened stage, sitting under a single spotlight, all right, with his new device perched on his fingertips with the light spearing down on top of it like fucking aliens just beamed it down from outer space. Okay? Stupid. Now, of course, his successor, Tim Cook, pretty much does the same thing at his product launch, only his shirt has a collar and buttons on it. But other than that, pretty much everything's the same. All right? Oh, and occasionally he'll high-five one of the guys from YouTube. But what Steve Jobs had was a brand and a brand identity. And that's really what your hardcore Apple consumer buys into, is the brand identity. How it makes him feel. You know, what does my iPhone say about me when someone sees me holding my iPhone or my Mac computer, my MacBook, at the Starbucks, plugged into their free Wi-Fi, loafing around for fucking 4 hours drinking one coffee, killing capitalism. So what Steve Jobs did was buck the industry trends, okay? Excuse me. The industry trends are towards bigger screens, lighter phones, thinner. And under Steve Jobs, what you had was a smaller phone, 3-inch, 3.5-inch screen max, and a pretty heavy phone. The iPhone 4S I had, a big chunk of glass and metal. Okay, you felt it in your pocket. Now, one of the things that Apple fans like to claim is that, oh, it's such a premium feel. It feels so premium. Oh, can you feel the premiumness? Oh, premium. Premium. I'm looking at my premium 4S and thinking, I got to get a case for this sumbitch right away, because the first time I drop it, it's going to shatter into a million pieces. It's all glass. How stupid is that? And of course, it's heavy, so the case is going to add weight to it. All right? So what is the point of having the premium feel if you're just going to have to stick a case on it like everyone else ends up doing anyway? Okay? You can't see the premiumness when it's clad in an OtterBox. So premium feel might be sucker bait, but it's effective sucker bait, and it's made Apple billions of dollars. The second brilliant thing Steve Jobs did was convince people that, you know what? You don't need to have a bigger screen. Fuck that. You need the screen size I tell you you need. And people bought into it. I mean, look on any forum like CNET or Wired or pretty much any forum, PC Mag, that reviews technology and gear, and you'll have them all agreeing, oh yeah, big screen's too big, you gotta have one hand. Okay, never mind that your basic Samsung phone can be operated with one hand. They have a mode for that. It'll shrink the keyboard over to one side, left or right, your pick. But he had these people convinced that, you know, they could shell out $10 for an HD movie they could download to their iPhone and watch it on this tiny little cramped screen. All right? Probably not how James Cameron intended you to watch Avatar. But at the same time, it was kind of smart, because what Jobs did was he maintained his exclusivity. When they came out with the iPhone 5, all right, they made the screen bigger, but they didn't make it any wider. They just made it taller. So you had this really odd formatted screen, okay, that was a really stretched out rectangle. But at the same time, everyone was applauding him for how brilliant he was and how this was perfect. And now you have Apple in the Tim Cook era. So Tim Cook's era, if you could define it, it'd be called the Me Too era. Because what he's done basically is what Jobs never really did in the minor details, which is copy his competitors. Right? Now, certainly Jobs copied his competitors in the past. You know, 2 years before the iPhone came out, I had a smartphone with a touchscreen and a stylus and a physical keyboard, and there was an online app store for which I could buy productivity apps and games, schedulers, things like that. Hello, Palm Trio. You know, Steve Jobs sued Samsung for claiming he invented icons. All right, well, obviously he knows he didn't invent icons. Windows has been around forever. That's pretty much your inventor of the whole icon concept to launch software applications. However, Steve Jobs invented the square icon with rounded corners, and they have been arranged in orderly rows and columns. I think the makers of Connect 4 should fucking sue Apple. Okay, because they were onto that shit years before. So, Tim Cook, right or wrong, decided to compete in the phablet market, you know, the kind of cross between a smartphone and a tablet. So, not a bad idea, because you still have that whole Apple exclusivity that Steve Jobs had built into the whole Apple brand identity. And you can still pimp the whole premium feel factor of your phones over the cheap plastic that Samsung and every other phone maker makes. Where he screwed up was in the execution. Steve Jobs never would have let phones leave the factory if they had a propensity to bend just because you put it in your pocket and sat down. He never would have released an OS update that crippled a phone the very day that it rolled out. much less thousands of phones the very day they rolled out. He was a perfectionist. Maybe he was a perfect asshole, but he was a perfectionist. So the bloom is off the rose. The gild's off the lily. Okay, it always has been for those of us who have had Apple products and have had other products to compare them to. And I've had every type of smartphone that they've ever sold, pretty much. I've had Palm Trios, I've had Blackberries, I've had Windows Phone, fuck you, Windows Phone 7, and then you say, oh, by the way, you know what, I didn't want to get into it. It's still too fresh. I've had the iPhone 4S, like I've said, and now I have a Samsung Galaxy Note 3 replacing my Samsung Galaxy S3, which itself replaced the iPhone 4S. And do I love them? No. I find them very useful. That's pretty much it. That's my criteria for a device. Okay, so now Apple users have something to directly compare their phone to, because the differences between the current iPhone and other flagship smartphones in the market have never been smaller. And that's Tim Cook's big fuck up. And the second part of it is obviously that they stumbled out of the gate. They stumbled hard. Okay, they jumped on their dick with golf cleats. So what I'm trying to say is, your iPhone does make you a bad person if you're the type of person that has a fucking device as part of your personal identity. Okay, if it's really important that you have a certain type of phone that you need as a signifier to everyone around you as to what type of person you are. Enjoy your crippled, bendy piece of shit. Have a good day.